And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this 24th day of August 2022. And it's a glorious day here in Brisbane, 12 degrees right now. But hey, it was so chilly this morning and windy as well on my morning walks. That's what I discovered. Well, once again, welcome to the show today. And today we have for you the latest news, and then we have the daily India report, followed by at 10 a.m. we'll have the weekly real estate update with Usa Chandra. Well, let's get into the news for today. First of all, the breaking news, of course, is that inquiry surrounding Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison owes the Australian people an apology.
Anthony Albanese declaring his one-time opponent had let down the nation.
For undermining our parliamentary democracy, something that can't be taken for granted.
The Solicitor General finding that while Mr Morrison's secret ministerial appointments were valid, they broke convention and good practice.
Your Excellency.
Nor did the Queen's representative have discretion to refuse the ex-PM's power grab.
The Governor-General acted upon the advice of the government of the day.
The Solicitor General's 26-page report says the fact the appointments weren't made public meant principles of responsible government were fundamentally undermined, given neither the people nor the Parliament can hold a minister accountable if they're not aware that the minister has those powers.
This is about the Australian people. That's who, at the end of the day, we're accountable for.
Mr Albanese is standing up day after day and he's looking in the rearview mirror.
There clearly needs to be a severe political consequence for someone who has so completely flouted our own system of government.
A wide-ranging inquiry into the scandal to be launched.
Why this occurred, how it occurred, who knew about it occurring.
We'll work with the government to achieve whatever needs to be achieved, but a second inquiry is just more Tory bashing from this Prime Minister.
Scott Morrison has pledged to assist with any genuine process. I regret any offence caused, he said in a statement, insisting he acted with the best of intentions, in good faith, and to protect Australia in the face of multiple crises.
Thanks very much.
Anthony Albanese moving to stop a repeat, ordering his department to ensure the Governor-General publishes all future ministerial appointments. The Solicitor General was asked a pretty simple question. Was Scott Morrison's appointment valid? The answer was one word, yes. Yet Stephen Donoghue volunteered more than 9,000 other words to effectively condemn the ex-PM's trashing of convention and accountability. The irony is not lost on Mr Morrison's old cabinet colleagues that what began as an exercise in decentralising the health minister's extraordinary pandemic powers became a secret accumulation of multiple ministries. The former PM's actions guarantee he'll remain a giant distraction for the coalition for as long as he remains in Parliament. When Mr Morrison will exit politics, we don't know, but we do know this. Institutional barriers to prevent this happening again are already being erected. Andrew Probyn, ABC News.
So the wheels are in motion to make sure that this does not ever happen again. Well, that's a good move. It should not happen. And it did happen because it could happen, meaning the laws allowed that to happen. And that is why it happened, but it is not good practice and principally wrong. So there we go. But legally, yes, it is there. And is it valid? Yes, it is valid. Well, right now, is still keeping in New South Wales. A second Labor MP is accused of bullying. Now, when we look at these days, the political correctness and all these things coming in, bullying and things like that, harassment, discrimination and all those things, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? Because many things that were okay in the olden days and was said in the your normal course of day today can be taken very, very differently because it's a different world that we live in. Growing up, as youngsters, if we did something wrong, we get a tweak in the ear, we get a smack in the back and to pull us in line. These days, no, you're not allowed to do that. Because you are bullying or you are seeing as using undue pressure and all those kind of things. So where do we draw the line?
Chris Minns has already lost one of his team over bullying allegations. Now there are new claims about another.
These are anonymous allegations at this point.
Allegations of bullying staff have been levelled against Bankstown MP Tanya Mihalich through the media, but no formal complaints have been made. She denies the allegations and her leader is backing her in.
She was the mayor of Bankstown, the female mayor of Bankstown in her 20s. You don't get to that position unless you're tough. She often takes contrary views to many of her colleagues.
In the past, an internal brawl involving Ms Mihalich has been on display. Late today, the Shadow Natural Resources Minister released a statement. It doesn't surprise me that on the eve of my pre-selection, suddenly complaints which have never been brought to my attention are being selectively leaked to the media. I completely reject the assertions. She's facing a problematic pre-selection in southwest Sydney, with the Lakemba MP Jihad Dib, as well as Guy Sangari in Fairfield. The seat of Lakemba has been abolished for the March election, and the redistribution means much of that electorate becomes Bankstown in name, while the area Ms Mihalich represents is being absorbed by the neighbouring seats. All three MPs want to run. These allegations draw unwanted attention to Labor when its electoral stocks are rising. They raise the possibility of problems and fractures within the party and put Chris Minns under pressure.
Chris Minns today needs to tell the public whether he's going to call out the behaviour of Tanya Mihalich or he's going to ignore it.
The opposition leader insists any allegation should be dealt with through the party's or Parliament's independent complaints process. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
So there you are, up to date on Australian Indian Radio. Well, right now for some good news or some chilling news, as you might say. A winter wonderland in central New South Wales.
Look, my feet are freezing, even though I've got 2 pairs of socks on. But hey, when it looks like this, a winter wonderland, you can't complain, really. It makes it all worthwhile. The snow over Central Tablelands has been a bit patchy. We woke up in Orange to really nothing, just a lot of ice. But as we drove up here this morning to Yet Home, which is about 20 minutes east of Bathurst, as you can see, the snow has well and truly delivered. The roads, however, are really icy. There's a lot of black ice. And actually the Great Western Highway and Bells Line of Road are both closed through the Blue Mountains because they've had so much snow and ice through that area that it's just too dangerous to get through at the moment.
And that'll be affecting quite a few people. There are a lot of people that live up that way that work, say, in Sydney, so that's going to be a bit of a headache. Are you expecting any more today?
No, at the moment, as you can probably see above me, the sky is beautiful and clear, so it's going to probably all melt off relatively quickly. It never tends to hang around too long once the temperature starts to climb. But it's funny, over the last few years, this last few days of August, we've actually seen snow every year. So it's quite funny. It's become a little bit of a regular thing out here, but it's something to enjoy in the morning, but generally it won't hang around, except maybe under some of the bigger trees in the shade for a few hours to come.
And Wonderland, yes, good to see that it's now there up in Blue Mountains, and even though it's for even if it's short-lived, it is wonderful to see that. It's so beautiful out there. Well, right now we're still staying on Western Sydney, looking at finding employment. As we know, Western Sydney is quite a multiculturally diverse area, but and many people live there, but do they actually work in the area, or is it easy to find job within that area?
Dani El-Kateb wants to work for an honest wage. He used to clean operating theatres in Iraq, but the 23-year-old hasn't found a stable job since arriving in Australia 2 years ago.
I want English courses, but at the same time I want work because I told you I want to help my family.
While he's struggling to find work, businesses say they're struggling to find workers.
There's companies in the construction, the landscaping area, for example, that have had to say no to new work, no to jobs because they can't find people to come and work for them.
The federal government is now considering lifting the current skilled migrant cap. But there are also calls for greater upskilling of the job seekers who are already here.
The biggest vacancies are actually in hospitality, in administration, and in jobs that we can easily train people in purely a few weeks.
Frank Carbone is the mayor of Fairfield in southwestern Sydney, which has one of the highest migrant populations in the country. Unemployment here is more than double the national average.
When they're talking about bringing in 200,000 new migrants, it's Western Sydney that will settle most of them.
Many employers want to see someone with, great English and who has localised work experience, and for many of our clients that simply isn't the case.
Business groups are calling for a mix of increased migration and upskilling, including tailored courses. While some say there needs to be greater recognition of overseas qualifications.
We can be doing more. There are so many industries that aren't recognised, and the one that always springs to mind is engineering.
I have to find a job to help more in my family and sister and brother.
Dani says he's ready to work if they'll have him. Tony Ibrahim, ABC News, Sydney.
Ready to work but cannot get a job, and there are employers waiting to fill in positions. So, we just need to strike that happy medium. Well, right now, moving on, industrial action is still causing a lot of train delays in Sydney.
Talks may be getting back on track, but strike action is full steam ahead from Sydney's west.
It's been crazy, to be honest. It's really disrupted a lot of us.
I was a bit late to work.
To the north.
I understand what they're trying to do, but it's sort of inconveniencing the wrong people.
Bit irritating kind of thing, but, everyone's going through it.
Services were heavily reduced on the T1 North Shore and Western, T7 Olympic Park and T9 Northern lines, and there were no services on the T5 between Richmond and Leppington. On Thursday it will get worse, with all trains running on a reduced timetable, with a major reduction to services in peak periods.
Kind of sucks, doesn't it?
To get to work I have to leave home like 1 hour before.
Just the bus probably, yeah, but it will take longer.
The good news is that the rail union says it's close to a breakthrough in the deal to modify new intercity trains. The fleet has been sitting idle for more than a year, costing taxpayers $30 million a month.
It was designed to get rid of the guards. While we understand that driver only may work in other parts of the world, it won't work here in New South Wales.
But progress won't stop Thursday's strike. The union says there is more to negotiate when it comes to the Rail Workers' Enterprise Agreement.
And yes, once the safety issue is addressed, yes, we are going to stand up for good wages and conditions.
It is completely unacceptable that they're holding the public to ransom.
Talks so far have been slow and often unproductive, with negotiations set to ramp up over pay and conditions. If both parties aren't prepared to compromise, commuters will likely face many more months of pain. Phoebe Bowden, ABC News.
And the saga continues, as we know. Safety issues first, then they will be fighting for the pay conditions. Well, the mother of those children who were found in the suitcase has been traced.
Possible family member of the two children whose bodies were discovered in suitcases last week in New Zealand has been traced to South Korea. Seoul police say a woman thought to be the children's mother arrived in the country in 2018. Lance Burdett is a former lead crisis negotiator at New Zealand Police and is now managing director of Warn International. He says the work has only just begun for authorities.
Yeah, look, it's a terrible tragedy, and I feel for the investigators that have had to go in there and do quite a bit of work with this, plus, of course, the families that are involved. It's a methodical process. It will start where the bodies were located. It then moved into what we'd say is the number one scene, which is the storage facility, and then it's just a methodical process of working away from there.
So then what is your understanding of how easy it was to then identify a woman believed to be the mother of these two children?
It would have been difficult, I would think, with dealing with the remains of the children. One of them was primary school age, so that might suggest dental records could have been used. But in situations such as this, where a family may be involved in some way, oftentimes the person involved panics, and they may well have found documentation or something else that may have been able to identify who the deceased were and then the family itself. So something's at the scene, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, so potentially even paperwork in connection with the storage facility where the suitcases were being stored.
I would have thought so, given the speed with which they were able to say they are seeking the mother in South Korea. So there was some indication in amongst. So it wasn't just the one box or the one suitcase. It was a number of other items within that container itself. So there will be some evidence in there. Fingerprints do remain for years, in fact, but it probably suggests to me that there's some documentation around.
So, Lance, where does this case go to from here?
Well, this is the problem, you see, because the person I want to speak with is overseas, and so you have two options. One is to go through Interpol and get them to do the interview, but the preferred method is to send a couple of investigators to Korea and interview the person in South Korea to see what's happened and to see if they to bring somebody back to extradite somebody is quite difficult, and it has to go through a high court judge to do so.
I imagine it wouldn't take.
So there you are. Those are the options. One is employ Interpol to do the interview or send someone from here. But in both cases, there are orders that needs to come from high courts, and there's quite a legal battle there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. In a hard-hitting speech at the United Nations Security Council, India's envoy to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj, accused China, without naming it, of having double standards in fighting terrorism and disrespecting the territorial integrity of states. India on August 22nd took a tacit swipe at China at the UN Security Council over issues such as double standards in fighting terrorism, coercive and unilateral action aimed at changing the status quo by force, and respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of states. Though India's envoy to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj, didn't name any country while participating in a meeting at the Security Council on the maintenance of international peace and security, it was obvious which country the remarks referred to. The meeting was convened at the behest of China, the President of the Security Council, for August, and Kamboj noted that one of the guiding questions posed by the presidency for the meeting is what constitutes common security. The Indian side has repeatedly accused China of violating several agreements and protocols on border management by amassing troops along the LAC since early 2020. The standoff has taken bilateral relations to an all-time low. In some good news for Indian students, China has announced plans to issue visas to hundreds of Indian students stranded at home due to COVID-19 pandemic. China announced on August 22nd that it will issue visas to Indian students stranded at home for over 2 years due to Beijing's strict COVID restrictions. Also, China will start issuing visas for various categories of travel permits for Indians, including business visas. As per the announcement, X1 visa, which will be issued to students who intend to go to China to pursue long-term study for higher academic education, including newly enrolled students and students who want to return to China to resume their studies. Over 23,000 Indian students, mostly studying medicine, are reportedly stuck back home due to COVID visa restrictions. India had submitted a list of several hundred students after China sought the names of those wanting to return immediately to pursue their studies. While the new students should produce original admission letter issued by a university in China, the old students need to submit a certificate of returning to campus issued by the university in China. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has emphasized that he wishes to maintain relations with India through dialogue, especially after the abrogation of Article 370. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said that Pakistan wants to have permanent peace with India through dialogue, as war is not an option for either of the countries to resolve the Kashmir issue. Media reports said that Sharif made the comments while speaking to a delegation of students from Harvard University. Sharif also said that sustainable peace in the region was linked to the resolution of the Kashmir issue as per the United Nations resolution. He said, quote, Pakistan resolves to maintain peace in the region and that sustainable peace in the region was linked to the resolution of the Kashmir issue as per the UN resolutions, end quote. Relations between India and Pakistan have often been strained over the Kashmir issue and cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan. However, the ties between the two countries were nosedived after India abrogated Article 370 of the Constitution, revoking the special status of Jammu and Kashmir and bifurcating the state into two union territories in 2019. India's decision evoked strong reactions from Pakistan, which downgraded diplomatic ties and expelled the Indian envoy. Incessant rains and flash floods have ravaged several parts of India, particularly the states of Odisha, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. Rescue teams are currently helping those in need as nearby rivers swell and waterlogging thwarts daily life. Evacuation efforts are in full swing in flood-hit Odisha states Balasore and Mayurbhanj districts as water in nearby rivers breach the danger mark at many places. As many as 58 rescue teams have been deployed in the two northern districts in readiness for the imminent flood threat. Meanwhile, rescue operations were intensified in the hill state of Uttarakhand, where a series of cloudbursts hit the Dehradun, Tehri and Pauri districts. Officials said efforts are on to restore connectivity along stretches where bridges had been washed out by swollen rivers. In the neighbouring state of Himachal Pradesh, Chief Minister Jairam Thakur reviewed the on-ground situation in Mandi district, which was ravaged by flash floods and landslides that left 22 people dead. The Indian Meteorological Department has predicted rainfall in the next 48 hours in parts of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Maharashtra states. Heavy to very heavy rainfall is very likely at isolated places over Maharashtra and heavy rainfall at isolated places over East Madhya Pradesh, West Rajasthan and North Gujarat. Indian Home Minister Amit Shah has said that the country will set up additional security camps in conflict areas that still witnesses left-wing extremism. Indian Home Minister Amit Shah chaired the 23rd Central Zonal Council in Bhopal city of Madhya Pradesh. At the meeting, Shah talked of a significant decline in left-wing extremism incidents in the country under the Narendra Modi-led government. He said the government has taken important steps for the development of Maoist-affected areas. The union government is further strengthening security forces in certain affected areas. 14 new security camps have been opened in the last 3 years and 15 more are to be opened, Shah confirmed. Listing the steps taken for development in such areas, Shah said around 5,000 post offices and over 1,200 bank branches were set up in the last 3 years. More than 2,300 mobile towers are currently being installed as part of the first phase, and 2,500 more will be installed in the second phase, he added. The Central Zonal Council comprises Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Chhattisgarh. These states are important for their geographical location, contribution to gross domestic product and national development. India's Shubman Gill, with his many fours and sixes, led India to a comfortable win against Zimbabwe in the ongoing ODI series at the Harare Sports Club. Sikandar Raza's valiant knock of 115 failed to take Zimbabwe home as India edged past them by 13 runs in the third and final ODI at the Harare Sports Club on August 22nd to clean sweep the series 3-0. The match went down to the wire after Raza's splendid knock, but India held their nerves well to end up on the winning side. Earlier, Shubman Gill led from the front with his 130-run knock as India posted 289 for 8 in 50 overs. Gill showed great composure and he built his innings with great pace. His innings were the main reason that India managed to post a respected total on the board. During his innings, Gill hit 15 fours and 1 6. Ishan Kishan was the second best scorer for India with 50 runs to his credit. For Zimbabwe, Brad Evans returned a 5-wicket haul, while Victor Nauchi and Luke Chongwei claimed a wicket each. Earlier, KL Rahul won the toss and opted to bat first. Trailer of the much-awaited film from South, Captain, is out and Tamil actor Arya has won raging reviews. Tamil cine star Arya, a popular face in the film industry, has etched his place in the hearts of millions of fans with films like Sarpatta Parambarai, Enemy, Magamuni and Aranmanai 3 to list a few. Arya's upcoming cinematic venture, Captain, has been doing the rounds on the internet for quite a long time. The much-anticipated trailer of the film has created a frenzy among fans. Captain is a story about Captain Vetri Selvan of the Indian Army and his journey of defeating an alien in a forest. Helmed by Shakti Soundararajan, Captain stars Arya, Aishwarya Lakshmi, Simran, Harish Uthaman and Suresh Chandra Menon in prominent roles. Rajan is known for his directorial expertise in science and the animal-centric genre. Several of his films like Tick Tick Tick, Teddy and Miruthan were critically acclaimed by fans and critics alike. Captain is slated to hit the silver screen on 8 September 2022. That's all in today's bulletin.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment. Don't forget that we are back here at 10 a.m. with the weekly real estate update with Usu Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. Until then, it's goodbye from us.